The vastness of space unfurled before us, stars shimmering like scattered drops of molten silver upon an endless canvas of darkness. Our battered craft, the Aurelian Dawn, drifted into the orbit of the planet Viridian, a silent testament to humanity's unyielding determination. Earth's last council had sent us forth on a desperate errand. We were tasked with forging alliances, or at the very least, discovering whether any beings among the cosmos might grant us mercy. For the Earth was in peril, her resources all but spent, her plains scorched by decades of conflict, her skies gray with the residue of human folly. She needed hope. I was Kael, a mere pilot of unassuming birth, though I stood among the statesmen and scholars on board. My name had been drawn by chance, a cosmic trick of fate, to represent my species in negotiations with the rumored goddess of Viridian, known as Lira. She was said to be both beautiful and terrible, a deity who ruled over her domains with an enigma for a heart. We had heard whispers of her labyrinth, a place of swirling illusions and strange trials, which tested the worth of any ambassadors who arrived at her court. Yet none had ever returned to speak of its perils. The cosmic logs were silent, the dust of centuries giving no clue as to what horrors or delights might lie hidden within those living walls. The atmosphere of Viridian was thick, tinted green by lush vegetation, across continents shaped like spiral fractals. Its seas glimmered with an otherworldly sheen, as if filled with shimmering crystals rather than mere water. We descended through swirling clouds, guided by ancient coordinates passed to us from clandestine sources. Our vessel's engines groaned under the planet's gravitational tug, but we set down at last upon a plateau draped in fluorescent grass. Beyond the meadow lay a city of shimmering spires, with shapes reminiscent of organic growth. Towers twisted upward like living vines reaching for the heavens. This was the capital, known in the old archives as Vathia. At its center, a grand citadel crowned a black mountain with a single, glaring eye carved at the summit. The citadel itself seemed to pulse with energy, and from within it, I felt, came the gaze of Lira. Representatives from alien races, some new to me, some rumored only in legends, milled about in the plazas. They appeared uneasy, exchanging hushed glances as we disembarked, flanked by Earth's ambassadors. The air felt charged, scented with a faint perfume that teased the senses. A retinue of Viridian natives came to greet us, their bodies tall and slender, their features both delicate and regal. Their skins shimmered with gentle turquoise in the midday sun, and they carried themselves with the confidence of a race old enough to have witnessed star systems, flare and dim. At their head was a figure whose presence made my heart lurch, Lira. She stood among them, robed in a silken garment that moved as though alive, drifting about her form in gentle coils. Her hair was crowned with spires of crystalline growth, reflecting the light in prismatic splendor. Her eyes glowed with an inner fire, neither cruel nor benevolent, but infinitely curious. The hush that fell upon our small party seemed to tighten my throat, for in Lyra's presence, I felt as if the air itself bowed. All the legends about her power, her seductive aura, and the labyrinth that tested mortal souls rushed through my mind. I braced myself, uncertain whether she would greet us with scorn or with the rumored sensual magnetism that made lesser beings quiver. Stepping forth, she lifted her chin. "Travelers from Earth," she said, her voice resonating through the air in a sonorous ripple. "I sense you have come to plead your cause. The labyrinth stands ready for your champion, for only through its trials shall I offer my consideration. The fate of your home might hang in the balance." Every eye turned upon me then. I swallowed hard, recalling the words of the council elders, that a single volunteer must prove humanity's worth, or else we would gain nothing from this fabled goddess. Though my heart thundered, I refused to let fear rule me. Stepping away from my companions, I inclined my head. Kael. Come to represent Earth and her people, I said, my voice wavering only slightly. I will face your labyrinth. Should I succeed, I beg that you spare my world. Let us join in peaceful exchange. Lira's gaze lingered on me, piercing as if to plumb the depths of my soul. Then, ever so slightly, she smiled. Very well, Kael, she said. Enter the labyrinth at dawn. May your spirit endure its illusions. Should you emerge triumphant, Earth shall find favor here. The ambassadors behind me stirred, relief and apprehension intermingling. I caught sight of the shimmering spires around us, the ominous citadel beyond, and realized that I had only a few short hours to gather my courage. The labyrinth awaited, silent and dark, promising wonders and terrors beyond my imagination. Deep within my chest, I felt an ember of resolve. I had come to protect Earth, to stand as her champion in the eyes of a goddess. To do so, I would endure whatever trials lay ahead. Little did I know then that the labyrinth of Lira was far more than a puzzle of corridors and traps. It was alive, throbbing with the passions of countless seekers who had come before, a realm of illusions, emotional and physical, that would test the boundaries of my very essence. I squared my shoulders and looked once more at Lira, who inclined her head as though granting me a royal audience. Until dawn, then, she declared, rest, prepare, and reflect, for once you enter, the labyrinth shall claim you in ways you cannot begin to fathom. So began my final night before the trial. The city's lights danced upon distant spires, and I retired to a small chamber within the embassy quarter. Sleep did not come easily, for my mind raced with thoughts of what awaited me. Yet, through the swirling tempest of doubt, one certainty anchored me. I would face the labyrinth, no matter the cost, for the sake of Earth, for the sake of my own honor. I would not falter. That night, I struggled to rest in the modest quarters assigned to me. Through the narrow window carved of opalescent stone, I watched Viridian's 3 moons rise in tandem, each a different shade, one silver, one pale green, and one tinged with violet. Their combined glow bathed the city in an ethereal haze. I sat upon a low cot, the mattress yielding only slightly beneath my weight. My thoughts churned with images of the labyrinth, trying to grasp what form its trials might take. Legends claimed it responded to the innermost desires and fears of any who dared to venture in. Others spoke of cunning illusions that drove strong souls to the brink of madness. But no two tales agreed upon the details. As the hours crept by, I found my spirits wavering. I rose, paced about the small chamber, then pressed my forehead against the cool stone wall, attempting to steady my breathing. I reminded myself that fear was natural. Courage was merely the fortitude to act in spite of it. At length, exhaustion tugged at my eyelids. I drifted into a half-sleep, visions swirling in my mind, dark corridors, flickers of pale light, a shimmering figure that beckoned to me from behind a veil. And behind her, I caught a glimpse of Earth, a fragile blue sphere, threatened by cosmic storms. When I woke, dawn had already kissed the horizon with a gentle peach glow. Gathering my composure, I dressed in simple attire, a close-fitting tunic, sturdy trousers, boots laced high. No armor or weapons were permitted within the labyrinth, only my wits, my resolve, and an open heart to face whatever illusions the goddess might conjure. A Viridian attendant arrived, leading me through the winding city streets as the populace stirred. Their elongated silhouettes brushed against spires as they moved with fluid grace, half-sung greetings echoing in the morning air. I could feel my pulse racing with each step, as though my heart feared that moment when I would stand at the threshold of the labyrinth. At last, we arrived at the citadel's outer gate. Carvings of strange beasts adorned a towering archway, eyes carved deep into the onyx-like material. Beyond the arch, a bridge of glossy black stone led into the very heart of the mountain, high above. That single carved eye at the mountain's summit stared down, a silent guardian. Waiting at the entrance stood Lira, in daylight. Her beauty was no less arresting. The silken garment coiled about her still, shimmering with an internal glow. Her eyes settled upon me, and for a fleeting instant, I saw something akin to empathy in her gaze. "Kael," she said quietly, her voice resonant. "Beyond this gate lies the labyrinth. Once you enter, its doors shall seal. You must journey through its halls, discovering the path to its core. Only then may you emerge. Should you fall prey to illusions or fail to master the trials, I cannot guarantee your return, and Earth shall lose its chance at my mercy." I nodded, feeling the weight of that burden pressing upon my shoulders. Around us, a small crowd had gathered, curious onlookers from many races. Some pitied me. Others seemed eager to witness the spectacle. I noticed a tall, spindly figure with golden feathers and a glowing collar, and a squat, thick-limbed creature whose skin looked carved from stone. Yet from every corner, they all watched, silent with rapt attention. "May your spirit remain strong," Lira intoned, stepping aside. Her gown rustled around her ankles, shifting with subtle grace as she extended an arm toward the dark entrance. "The labyrinth will not show mercy merely because your cause is noble. Remember that you face more than mere corridors. You face reflections of the self, of mortal longing and dread." I drew a breath, swallowing the dryness in my throat. "I understand," I managed to say, though my voice felt distant. "I am ready." With that pronouncement, I moved forward, step by determined step, toward the black maw of the citadel gate. My heart thrummed in my chest. Each pace echoed upon the smooth stone, as though the labyrinth itself listened. I cast one final look over my shoulder, saw the watchers, Lira's impassive face, the swirl of light within the city, and stepped into the darkness. Instantly, the air grew cooler. An eerie glow emanated from veins of faintly luminescent mineral along the walls, providing a spectral illumination. The gate behind me rumbled shut, sealing me inside. I was alone with the labyrinth. I held up a hand, marveling at how my skin seemed bathed in pale green phosphorescence. The corridor stretched before me, smooth and seamless. No visible doorways in sight. Yet the moment I stepped forward, the passage itself rippled, as though responding to my presence. I advanced cautiously, feeling the floor shift beneath my boots, leading me onward around subtle bends. It felt as though the labyrinth were rearranging itself, shaping a path for me. Soft currents of air whispered past my ears, evoking a faint sense of disorientation. Eventually, I reached a broader chamber. The ceiling soared overhead, vanishing into darkness. The walls glistened with moisture, forming patterns reminiscent of swirling galaxies. My gaze drifted to the center of the room, where a raised dais beckoned, approaching it with caution. I saw a polished stone pedestal upon which rested a small orb of milky translucence. It pulsed with a gentle rhythm, reminiscent of a heartbeat. I hesitated, uncertain whether to touch it, but a voice spoke from behind me, startling me so thoroughly I nearly stumbled. "Are you the new supplicant?" Whirling around, I beheld a figure dressed in ragged attire, skin tinted a pale purple. It had large, almond-shaped eyes and delicate facial ridges framing them. This was no mere illusion. But neither did this being appear wholly stable. Its edges flickered faintly. Yes. I suppose I am, I managed. I'm here to prove my world's worth. The figure tilted its head, regarding me with weary curiosity. Then you must do as the labyrinth demands, it said. But be warned. Each chamber tests a different aspect of your spirit. You cannot rely on reason alone. Nor can you let raw emotion rule you. Balance is key, I frowned, trying to discern whether this being was real or a phantom conjured by the labyrinth. Who are you? A flicker crossed its face, perhaps a glimmer of memory. I am what remains of a traveler who came before, it answered softly. My body perished, but my essence was absorbed by these living walls. Now I wander, a shade among illusions. A chill whispered down my spine. So not all who entered the labyrinth died outright. Some were claimed and transformed. Yet the being's sad eyes touched me, stirring empathy. Is there no way for you to leave? I asked. It shook its head slowly. Not in this state, unless one who passes the labyrinth freely offers me the chance to be reborn in the outside world. But that is a tall demand, for you would have to carry my spirit with you, forging a bond of the mind that is both intimate and precarious. I studied the figure, unsure what to think. If I succeed, I may have a say in your freedom, but for now, I must see my quest through. Will you help me? Though flickering, the being managed a faint nod. I can guide you as best I can, but be mindful. The labyrinth may twist my words into illusions. You must learn discernment. For now, you should take the orb. I turned to regard the milky orb on the pedestal again. Its soft glow beckoned, reminiscent of something pure. What does it do? It reveals hidden truths for a moment. A precious boon, said the shade. But each time you invoke it, it draws upon your life force. Use it sparingly. After a lingering pause, I reached out, heart pounding, and wrapped my fingers around the orb. A gentle warmth spread through my hand, and for an instant, I felt a surge of clarity. Then the orb's pulse stabilized, settling into a quiet radiance. With the orb in my grasp, the corridor beyond the chamber revealed itself a faint outline in the far wall. Previously invisible, I exhaled, slipping the orb into a pouch at my waist. I will follow, the shade murmured, drifting alongside me as I entered the new passage. Its voice trembled with quiet hope. And so, I ventured deeper into the labyrinth, guided by the dim glow of the mineral veins and the uncertain counsel of a soul trapped within these ancient halls. Whatever sensual illusions or harrowing trials lay ahead, I could only steel myself for the unknown. Each step echoed with the weight of Earth's future, a reminder that I faced more than my own survival. Time blurred in the labyrinth. It was a place where hours might stretch or contract according to the whims of shifting stone and surreal illusions. I pressed on, ever wary of the living walls that seemed to pulse with strange energies. My spectral companion, the shade, drifted at my side. Sometimes it spoke soft warnings. Other times it fell silent, as though it had forgotten the nature of its own existence. I sensed in its eyes a longing for freedom, a yearning to feel sunlight on living skin once more. At the end of the corridor, we came upon a pair of great doors, fashioned from a curious alloy that glimmered with shifting colors. They parted at my approach, granting entry to a grand hall lit by torches of pale violet flame. Inside, I discovered that the hall was not empty. Several alcoves, carved into the marble like walls, each held a statue aliens from countless species, captured in a moment of rapturous ecstasy or torment. Their expressions were so lifelike, I almost believed they might speak. As I crossed the threshold, The torches flared brighter, revealing a robed figure waiting beneath an archway opposite me. Its face was hidden within a hood, and slender hands extended from voluminous sleeves. Greetings. Came a sibilant voice that resonated through the hall. You are Kael of Earth. I am, I replied, my voice echoing slightly. Are you part of this labyrinth? A soft laugh. I am one of its many guardians, though I prefer the term curator. My domain is to test your desires, to see if your heart is truly pure or burdened by unbridled lust and ambition. My cheeks warmed at the implication, and I remembered the rumors about the labyrinth's sensual nature. It was said that Lira's powers could stir one's deepest cravings, harnessing them to either elevate or ensnare. I will face whatever challenge awaits, I declared. The curator lifted its hood slightly, revealing alien features that were eerily androgynous, yet enthralling. Very well. This chamber tests the sincerity of your passions. You will see illusions that call to your yearnings, be they physical or emotional. You must not lose yourself to them. I swallowed, bracing for whatever might emerge. The shade beside me trembled, as if recalling a torment once endured here. Without further warning, the statues within their alcoves began to stir. Their eyes glowed with an inner fire, and the air grew thick with a heady scent that tugged at my senses. I tried to focus, reminding myself of my purpose, Earth, my mission. One statue, carved in the likeness of a lithe-winged creature, stepped down from its alcove, marble shifting into living flesh. With mesmerizing grace, it circled around me, trailing a faint perfume that made my heart race. Another statue, resembling a tall, robed figure with elongated limbs, approached from the other side. Each step it took sent warm shivers across my skin. I realized then that the labyrinth wasn't just testing lust, but every variety of longing companionship, recognition, comfort. The illusions would probe my vulnerability, seeking to overwhelm me with desire. A sudden wave of ecstasy pulsed through the chamber. My vision blurred, and my body felt suffused with warmth, as though an invisible hand caressed my mind. In that instant, I saw the image of Earth, no longer suffering, but flourishing a paradise of renewed forests, clean oceans, and thriving civilizations. It was so tantalizingly real that tears stung my eyes. "Stay alert!" hissed the shade at my side, voice trembling. "These visions aim to ensnare you." My heart pounded. I fought to cling to reason. Yet the vision called to me. This is what I wanted, was it not? To see my home restored, to see my fellow humans living without fear of ruin. If I embraced that vision, might I lose myself here forever, content in the labyrinth's illusions? Gritting my teeth, I tried to ground myself in the present. I pressed a hand to my chest, feeling my true heartbeat. The illusions were potent, yes, but my devotion to reality had to be stronger. The winged figure bent toward me, whispering tantalizing suggestions that I could remain in that paradise if I only surrendered. The robed figure caressed my shoulder, and I felt an intense surge of euphoria. But behind that euphoria, I sensed a predatory hunger. These illusions wanted to feed on my spirit, to siphon my life in exchange for ephemeral bliss. Stumbling backward, I fumbled for the orb at my waist. It glowed faintly, as though urging me to use it. I hesitated, recalling that each use came at a cost. But the illusions were swarming my senses, threatening to drown my reason. Drawing a sharp breath, I lifted the orb, pressing it to my forehead. The moment I invoked its power, pain lanced through my temples. My vision flared white, then darkened. The illusions peeled away, revealing the chamber in its true form. The statues were not living creatures, but crumbling stone husks. Their eyes were empty pits, their allure an elaborate facade. The winged figure was a cracked statue missing an arm. The robed figure was half disintegrated. The wave of ecstasy was gone, replaced by the stale, cold air of the hall. I sagged, drained, as the orb's glow subsided. My breath came in ragged gasps, but I had overcome the illusions for now. The curator, still cloaked, inclined its head. Impressive. Kael, you resisted the call of longing. Your desire to save your home is strong, but not so strong that you would forsake reason. I met its gaze, my heart still hammering. I won't be swayed by empty visions. My cause is real, and I must see it through. With a gentle gesture, the curator waved an arm, and a door opened beyond the archway. Pass, then, champion of Earth. May your resolve remain unwavering, for deeper illusions await. I cast a final glance at the motionless statues, feeling a pang of pity for the travelers who had fallen victim to them. Then I stepped forward, the shade gliding close behind me, and left the hall. Outside, I entered another corridor of smooth stone, dimly lit by the labyrinth's strange mineral veins. My body felt heavy, as though the confrontation had drained my strength. The shade glanced at me with concern. You used the orb once, it whispered. Be cautious. Each time, it will take more from you. I nodded, rubbing my temples. The cost had indeed been steep, but it had saved me from being ensnared by illusions I might never have escaped. We pressed on, uncertain of what shape the labyrinth would assume next. Within my chest, a new sense of confidence battled against lingering exhaustion. I had resisted the labyrinth's seductive pull. Earth's fate remained in my hands, and I was determined not to falter. Yet a whisper in the back of my mind reminded me that each trial would only grow more formidable, each illusion more intricate. Somewhere deep within these twisting halls, Lira's will observed me, gauging my every reaction. I wondered if she was pleased, or if she simply waited for a final verdict on my worthiness. Either way, there could be no turning back now. As the corridor bent and wound, the walls grew warmer, softly pulsing in hues of crimson and gold. It felt as if I walked through the veins of a colossal creature, the steady heartbeat of the labyrinth drumming in my ears. My companion, the shade, whispered that we were drawing closer to the labyrinth's deeper recesses, a place where illusions bled into reality more seamlessly. Eventually, we emerged into a broad amphitheater bathed in golden light. Rows of polished stone benches rose around an open stage of smooth obsidian. Overhead, a vaulted ceiling flickered with faint constellations, as though the night sky itself had been woven into the architecture. Cautiously, I stepped forward, the shade hovering at my side. The orb in my pouch weighed heavily, a silent reminder of its costly power. The amphitheater was eerily still, devoid of the usual echoes of a grand hall. My own footsteps sounded unnaturally loud. Suddenly, swirling motes of light rose from the stage. They coalesced into figures draped in robes of shifting color actors, or perhaps illusions of them. They moved in graceful unison, their silent dance mesmerizing. A gentle music swelled from unseen sources, haunting melodies that tugged at my emotions. The robed figures circled the center of the stage until one, taller than the rest, stepped forth. His face was obscured by a veil, yet I sensed power radiating from him. "Welcome, traveler," the lead figure intoned, voice echoing through the amphitheater. "You stand at the threshold of the rite of reflection, wherein the labyrinth reveals that which dwells within your heart." The shade shivered, drifting behind me, as though to hide from the figure's gaze. My pulse quickened. Thus far, the labyrinth had tested my resilience against seduction. Now, it seemed intent on delving deeper, extracting hidden truths about my innermost self. The robed dancers spread out, chanting in low voices that reverberated in my bones. The stage shimmered, and I beheld an image forming at its center, a vision of me, kneeling in exhaustion. The me in the vision lifted his head, eyes brimming with tears. I felt a pang of disorientation, as though I were glimpsing a secret corner of my own mind. The chanting figures gestured in unison, and the vision of me spoke. Why must I bear this burden alone? Why was I chosen? Though the voice belonged to the vision, I recognized it as the echo of my own doubts. Indeed, I had asked myself these questions in the solitude of my bunk aboard the Aurelian Dawn. Before I could steel myself, the dancers changed their formation. A new vision sprang to life upon the stage, a memory of Earth. I saw the parched fields, the polluted rivers, the towering cities cloaked in smog, families huddled in makeshift shelters, children's eyes wide with fear. Guilt speared my heart. I failed them. The vision Kael murmured. All of us did. Our greed and ignorance led us here. Tears pricked at my eyes. I had enlisted to pilot diplomatic missions, hoping to undo some measure of the damage. But the weight of humanity's collective choices lay heavy on my soul. Around me, the chanting rose in intensity. The illusions danced with the fluid grace of living shadows, weaving images that both fascinated and tormented. Scenes of Earth's history flashed by glorious achievements and terrible wars, boundless compassion and shocking cruelty. Stop this, I hissed through gritted teeth. I already know these truths. I carry them every day. The lead figure glided closer, reaching out with a slender hand. Acceptance is not the same as acknowledgement, he whispered. You must let go of the shame that does not serve you. Only then can you truly stand for your people without the burden of self-condemnation. His words struck deep, and I felt a swirl of conflicting emotions. Could I forgive humanity's mistakes? Could I forgive my own flaws? Yet, was I not here, risking my life to save Earth from total collapse? Surely that had to count for something. The robed dancers chanted louder. A swirl of light encompassed me, and within it, I saw another presence, dark and shapeless, thrashing as though furious at being exposed. My regrets, my insecurities, and a hidden resentment that had grown in my heart like a thorny weed. In that moment, I realized the labyrinth was forcing me to confront not only illusions of desire, but illusions of self-distortions I harbored, which could sabotage my quest. I sank to my knees, sweat beading on my brow, the swirl of visions pounding in my mind. The shade hovered near, and its faint voice broke through the chanting. You are more than your mistakes. Kael, you must believe that. The shapeless darkness coiled around me, whispering bitter accusations. That I was too weak, that I bore the guilt of an entire species that had ravaged its own planet. My chest tightened. Fear and self-loathing threatened to consume me. But then I recalled the faces of those who believed in me, the ambassadors who had chosen me, not out of cynicism, but because they still believed in hope. My own resolve, kindled by the love I held for my home, for the children who deserved a future. No more, I murmured, summoning courage from the depths of my soul. I will not be paralyzed by shame. I stand for Earth, flaws and all, because we can do better. We will do better. The darkness writhed, but I forced myself to embrace it, acknowledging the weight of my regrets. My heart thundered as I whispered, I forgive myself, and I forgive my people. We are imperfect, but we strive to learn. Like a ribbon of black smoke caught in a strong wind, The darkness began to dissipate. A swirling wind whipped through the amphitheater. The chanting voices reached a crescendo, then abruptly went silent. Cautiously, I opened my eyes. The illusions had vanished. The robed figures were gone, and I found myself alone with the shade in the amphitheater. My legs trembled as I stood, feeling strangely lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from my soul. In the center of the stage lay a small token, a disc inscribed with Viridian runes. I approached it and picked it up. Its surface felt warm, and I sensed it was another key of sorts, a symbol of passage. The shade regarded me with something akin to admiration. "You confronted yourself," it said softly. "That is no small feat here." Nodding, I pocketed the rune. "We should move on," I said, though my voice was hushed with awe. "I suspect the labyrinth has more in store for us yet." Together, we crossed the amphitheater and found a narrow corridor beyond. The atmosphere had changed. There was less tension, less suffocating pressure. It felt as though the labyrinth had accepted a part of me, or perhaps I had accepted a part of myself. Still, I could not be complacent. Each trial seemed to peel back layers of my spirit, testing my fortitude in ways both subtle and overt. The labyrinth's living walls still pulsed around us, a reminder that Lira's presence was everywhere, observing, judging. And so, with renewed determination, I pressed forward, carrying my forgiveness alongside my resolve. Earth's fate shone before me like a distant star, urging me to persevere through the labyrinth's mysteries. The labyrinth might strip me bare, but if that was what it took to protect those I loved, I would give it gladly. The corridor leading from the amphitheater wound downward, the air growing cooler as we descended. Our footsteps echoed in the quiet hush. The shade occasionally glanced over its shoulder, as though anticipating a new threat around every turn. Before long, the winding passage opened into a cavernous space that was breathtaking in its alien beauty. Towering columns of quartz like crystal rose from floor to ceiling, each column bathed in faint prismatic light. The reflections danced upon walls of smooth stone, painting the cavern in a shifting rainbow. In the center of this ethereal chamber stood a pool of shimmering liquid that reminded me of molten silver. It glowed softly, and wisps of vapor rose from its surface. The rippling pool exuded an almost magnetic pull, mesmerizing to behold. I took a cautious step closer, the shade floating behind me. "What is this place?" I whispered. The shade's answer was thoughtful, almost reverent. "I recall rumors of the silver pool, a fount of revelation, where one might see glimpses of fate, or even contact deeper layers of the labyrinth's consciousness." My heart quickened. So far, each chamber had presented a challenge, yet this one seemed serene. Perhaps it offered respite, or perhaps there was a hidden catch. Curiosity nudged me forward. I approached the pool, my reflection wavering upon its gleaming surface. The reflection distorted, then stabilized, revealing my face etched with weariness but also resolve. I inhaled, tentatively kneeling at the pool's edge. "If I can glean a vision here, it might guide me," I thought aloud. "But I must be careful." The shade bobbed in agreement. "This pool can grant insight, but it can also show false futures, illusions masked as prophecy." Still, I felt compelled to touch the surface. Slowly, I extended my hand, fingertips grazing the liquid. Warmth bloomed across my skin, and a gentle hum resonated through my bones. My mind drifted, as though lulled by a soft lullaby. Images flickered before my inner eye. I saw earth-transformed lush forests reclaimed desolate wastes, city rooftops gleaming with new technology that harmonized with nature rather than devouring it. I saw humans venturing out among the stars, forging friendships with alien worlds. exchanging knowledge and culture. Hope swelled in my chest. Then, just as swiftly, the vision shifted. I saw a dark horizon choked by storms of ash. The earth cracked and barren. Starving crowds fought for the last scraps of life, while distant galaxies spun, indifferent to humanity's demise. A wrenching sorrow filled my heart. The silver pool seemed to show me both potential futures. Which path we would follow remained uncertain, hinged on the choices we made here and now. In that moment, I heard a low murmur emanating from the pool. It spoke in a voice that sounded like many whispers layered atop one another. Which vision do you claim? Which destiny will be yours? I closed my eyes, breathing deeply to center myself. I claim a future of renewal, I answered softly. A future where we learn from our mistakes and forge bonds among the stars. The pool's surface rippled. I felt an odd surge of energy flow through me, as if it recognized my determination. Suddenly, a ripple of darkness marred the silvery sheen, and a figure emerged within the reflection Lira. She stood with regal poise, her iridescent gown coiling about her. Her voice echoed in my mind, well spoken, Kael. Yet mere words do not alter fate. The labyrinth's illusions can be kind or cruel, reflecting your own mind as much as mine. A tingle of awe mingled with unease. Lira was watching me through the pool. My pulse raced as I gazed into her eyes, luminous and inscrutable. Will you spare Earth if I succeed? I asked, even though I knew the answer was not so simple. Her reflection's expression was unreadable. You must complete what remains of the labyrinth, she said. Confront all that it reveals. Then, we shall speak of mercy and alliances. With that, her image faded, leaving only my reflection once more. I drew back my hand, heart pounding. The shade hovered anxiously beside me, as though sensing my mixed emotions. For a moment, I stared into the swirling liquid, contemplating the enormity of what lay ahead. The labyrinth was not merely an obstacle course of illusions, it was a crucible for my spirit, an interface with the mind of an ancient being who weighed my every breath. Rising to my feet, I nodded at the shade and turned away from the pool. We continued onward, passing through rows of shimmering crystal columns. Their prismatic light gently lit our path, a stark contrast to the harrowing darkness of previous chambers. Yet, even in this place of fleeting beauty, I felt the labyrinth's intensity. Each step tugged on my soul, as though the corridors themselves were weaving a tapestry of my essence, preparing the ultimate test I would soon face. In the distance, the corridor ascended again, illuminated by torches set in ornate brackets. My instincts told me that beyond that archway lay the labyrinth's next trial. Glancing at the shade, I tried to muster a confident smile. We keep going, I said, voice hushed. There is no turning back. The shade nodded, its flickering form seeming more solid than before. Perhaps the labyrinth's acceptance of my earlier revelations had given it strength as well. Together, we pressed onward, spurred by the promise of Earth's salvation and the distant hope that I might also free this companion from its eternal wandering. And deep in my heart, I wondered if Lira, the alien goddess, watched each step. The labyrinth was her domain, her expression of power. Though she had promised mercy, I suspected she would not grant it lightly. My resolve tightened. For if the path to that mercy was a crucible of mind and spirit, I would meet it with all the conviction I possessed. So we left the silver pool behind, carrying both the luminous hope it bestowed and the quiet dread of possible failure. The labyrinth's heart beckoned, pulsing with unknown challenges that would shape me or break me by the time I reached its core. Climbing the ascending corridor, we emerged into a gallery of arches that framed sweeping views of the labyrinth's internal architecture. It was as though we'd reached a balcony overlooking an impossible landscape below us. Twisting corridors and grand halls folded into each other like an Escher painting, defying logic with their labyrinthine complexity. From this vantage, I glimpsed shifting walls that rearranged themselves with ponderous grace. Staircases rose into midair, merging with new platforms. An eerie sense of awe filled me, but I also felt the weight of the labyrinth's vastness pressing on my spirit. A narrow walkway stretched from the gallery to another set of doors, beyond which I sensed the next trial awaited. The shade and I made our way across, each careful footstep echoing in the deep. Upon reaching the doors, they swung open with a quiet groan. We stepped into a chamber bathed in soft, pinkish light. The walls were covered in delicate frescoes, depictions of human figures, entwined with various alien forms. Their expressions passionate yet reverent. A gentle hum reverberated through the air, like the distant echo of a lullaby. The temperature was warmer here, and a soft breeze carried a sweet fragrance. I recognized it as the same perfume I'd sensed upon first landing on Viridian, something that stirred both curiosity and a subtle stirring of desire. This must be one of the labyrinth's famed sensual chambers, the shade murmured, trembling faintly. I've heard that few can pass through without succumbing to illusions of pleasure. I swallowed, steeling myself. The chamber was designed to disarm and seduce, I realized. The labyrinth had tested my resolve against illusions of lust before, but this felt different. There was a tenderness in the air, a welcoming warmth that invited trust and vulnerability. At the center of the chamber stood a low dais draped with silken cloth. Pillows and cushions were arranged around it, reminiscent of an otherworldly boudoir. I could almost hear whispered laughter in the corners, see glimpses of figures beckoning me to rest among them. Cautiously, I advanced, heart thrumming with trepidation. The shade floated behind me, its form flickering in and out as though the chamber's energies affected it. A voice cooed from the shadows, melodious and comforting. Come, weary traveler. You have journeyed far and carry many burdens. Would you not lay them down for a time? I recognized at once the insidious lure. Exhaustion gnawed at me, and the chance to find reprieve, even if fleeting, tempted me more than I cared to admit. Every muscle in my body ached from the labyrinth's trials, and my mind brimmed with the weight of Earth's future. Another voice, equally gentle, joined the first. Your heart is heavy with longing. Let us ease your pain, if only for a moment. A soft figure emerged from the shadows, draped in diaphanous fabrics that revealed glimpses of alien beauty. Their form was both familiar and exotic, with graceful limbs and eyes that shimmered with empathy. Another figure followed, then another, until the chamber was filled with these tender shapes, each radiating warmth. My breath caught in my throat. Their invitation was so sincere, so non-threatening, that I found myself wavering. The memory of the illusions in the earlier halls lingered, but this felt less malicious, more like a genuine offering of comfort. The shade hovered near, whispering urgently, Kael, be mindful. This place can siphon your will, draining you until you cannot continue. Resist the call. Clenching my fists, I tried to focus on the reality of my mission, Earth, the labyrinth, Lira's promise. But the chamber's fragrance dulled my thoughts, and the soft voices tugged at my heart. One figure approached me, extending a graceful hand. Its touch was feather light against my cheek, sending a shiver of unexpected pleasure through my body. I closed my eyes, struggling to maintain clarity. Images drifted through my mind, scenes of a peaceful Earth, friends laughing, warm embraces shared in simpler times. Emotions welled up, longing for that vanished peace. The figure's cooing voices promised a taste of that solace. I blinked, my resolve wobbling. Then, in a surge of defiance, I recalled the face of the robed curator, the illusions of that harsh truth, and the revelation that pure fantasy, no matter how sweet, could entomb me in stagnation. Summoning my strength, I pulled back, stepping away from the inviting arms. "No," I said, though my voice trembled with the struggle. "I cannot remain here. My duty is beyond these walls. I must press on." A collective sigh of disappointment rippled through the chamber. The figures receded slightly, their smiles wan. I sensed them testing my resolve, seeking any gap where temptation might slip in. Gritting my teeth, I reached into my pouch. My fingers brushed the orbit's presence alone, reminded me of the price I had already paid to pierce illusions. But perhaps I did not need to invoke it if I could stand firm on my own. I spread my stance, planting my feet on the smooth floor. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, but I forced my gaze around the chamber, meeting the eyes of its alluring inhabitants. "I understand your offer," I said, voice raw, "but my place is not in this dream. My people need me." For a moment, the tension coiled, and I feared they might transform into a more direct threat. But then, the chamber's soft glow shifted, one by one. The alluring figures faded like morning mist. The hum in the air grew distant, replaced by a quiet hush. The drapery on the dais fluttered, and then parted, revealing a narrow passage. Light glimmered beyond it, inviting me onward. My shoulders sagged with relief. The shade let out a quivering sigh. "You resisted," it murmured. "You truly have strength of spirit." I managed a weary nod. A sheen of sweat clung to my brow, and my heart still raced. The temptation had been powerful, not because of raw lust, but because it appealed to my longing for rest, for solace. That longing was real, but I could not succumb to illusions offering fleeting release. With a final glance around the now empty chamber, I stepped onto the dais and entered the newly revealed passage. The labyrinth's walls closed in around us again, dimly lit by the same pulsating veins of mineral. Though I had passed the sensual test, my body felt drained, as if a portion of my will had been sapped merely by resisting. Still, I pressed forward, driven by the memory of Earth's plight and the spark of hope that had taken root in my chest. Behind me, the shade followed, flickering with what might have been admiration. Each trial we overcame together strengthened our bond, forging a quiet camaraderie within these halls of living mystery. Yet I knew the labyrinth was not done. There were more trials ahead, illusions that could break even the stoutest heart. Lira's final judgment loomed like a distant star, bright, remote, and unyielding. In the silence that followed, I whispered a promise to myself. I would not surrender to illusions. No matter how sweet or how damning, I would see this through to the end. For Earth, for the shade, and for the sake of the fragile possibility that Lira might grant us a new beginning among the stars. The corridor beyond the sensual chamber seemed more austere, flanked by smooth walls devoid of ornament, lit by the pale glow of embedded crystals. My footsteps echoed with a measured cadence, as if the labyrinth itself now observed me in quiet reflection. Time felt subjective in this ever-shifting place. I could no longer gauge how many hours or days had passed since I first stepped through the entrance. My body yearned for rest, yet some unseen momentum compelled me onward, deeper into the labyrinth's core. Eventually, the passage opened into a circular room with a domed ceiling. A pattern of constellations, unfamiliar yet mesmerizing, was etched into the dome. At the center of the chamber, set within an ornate mosaic of swirling lines, stood a single door, a slender arch carved from a luminescent crystal. The shade drifted around the periphery of the room, gazing at the dome. "I remember something about this place," it murmured. "They call it the Chamber of Doors. Only one leads to the labyrinth's center. The others are false paths that win deeper into illusions. Or so the tales say." I studied the archway. There were, in fact, multiple door-shaped outlines along the circular walls, each identical in shape and size, yet only one stood ajar, radiating a gentle glow. Approaching it, I peered into the threshold, but saw only darkness beyond. "How do we choose correctly?" I asked. The shade hesitated. "Legends say the labyrinth's champion must trust the labyrinth to guide them, that the correct path will resonate with the champion's true intention." I raised an eyebrow. The instructions were cryptic, but then, so was everything about this place. Closing my eyes, I tried to sense any hint or pull from the archways. For a long moment, I felt only my own heartbeat and the quiet hush of the chamber. Gradually, however, I sensed the faintest tremor in my chest, a subtle magnetism pulling me toward one particular door. It was not the one standing ajar in the center, but another along the wall. The silhouette of that door wavered, light shimmering along its edges. I opened my eyes. "There," I said, pointing. The shade floated to my side. "It isn't even open. Are you certain?" "I think so." A pang of uncertainty flickered within me. But something about that doorway called me. The labyrinth had tested my mind, my emotions, my endurance. Now it asked for trust in my own intuition. Drawing a measured breath, I stepped forward. Placing my hand upon the crystal outline, I felt warmth bloom under my palm. The door glowed brighter, and with a gentle hum, it slid open, revealing a faintly lit corridor that extended into swirling mists. The shade followed me as I crossed the threshold. The door eased shut behind us, leaving us enclosed within a curving passage. The walls here were translucent, revealing shapes moving on the other side, ghostly silhouettes that drifted by like phantoms. A memory stirred in my mind, reminding me that the labyrinth was alive, shaped by Lira's power. Each corridor, each chamber, could represent a facet of her consciousness or a reflection of my own. The path curved gently to the left, and as we followed it, I realized the mists around us were thickening, forming a tunnel of pearly fog. The shade glided closer, anxiety evident in the flicker of its form. Without warning, the mist parted, revealing an open amphitheater reminiscent of the earlier one, yet smaller in scale. At its center stood a raised platform where a single figure knelt, shackled in chains of pale luminescence. A soft gasp escaped me. This captive was an alien woman, though her features bore some resemblance to the shade's ephemeral face. Her skin was a muted purple, her eyes large and expressive, framed by delicate ridges. She wore ragged garments that hung loosely from her frail form, and her wrists were bound with glowing restraints that pinned her to the platform. The shade drifted toward her, its voice quivering with recognition. "By the stars, that is my people's likeness. Could she be?" I approached carefully, my heart tightening at the sight of her plight. She looked up, fear and desperation in her gaze. "Please," she whispered, "help me." The moment our eyes met, I felt a surge of empathy. This was no illusion conjured to trick me. Her pain and terror were raw, tangible. Yet I knew better than to dismiss the labyrinth's capacity for trickery outright. "Who are you?" I asked softly, kneeling beside her. A tremor ran through her body. "My name is Saris," she said. "I was captured by Lira's labyrinth ages ago, or perhaps it was only yesterday. Time makes no sense here." Her voice was melodic yet strained, as if she had screamed for mercy countless times. The chains binding her wrists pulsed with an arcane energy, anchored to the platform itself. The shade drifted closer, regarding Ceres with an intense longing. I remember, faintly, it whispered. My kin once ventured here for refuge, but many never returned. Could Ceres be one of them? Catching the note of recognition, Ceres looked at the shade, eyes widening. You're like me, but you're a spirit trapped by the labyrinth, the shade answered. I've lost my body, my sense of time. But seeing you now, I recall the possibility of freedom. Ceres turned her pleading gaze back to me. I beg you, help me break these chains. If you do, I'll guide you to the heart of the labyrinth, to Lira herself. I've roamed its corridors long enough to learn hidden paths. My thoughts whirled. Helping her would be the right thing to do, my conscience demanded it. But the labyrinth had already proven adept at manipulating illusions of need and vulnerability. Could this be another trap? Glancing at the orb in my pouch, I debated whether to use it to discern truth. Yet the memory of the pain it caused me lingered. I had used it only once. Another invocation might sap my strength even more. Still, Ceres's desperation gnawed at me. Her trembling form and beseeching eyes felt undeniably real, stirring every protective instinct I possessed. I made a choice. Sometimes moral conviction must override caution. All right, I said gently. I'll try. She bowed her head, relief flooding her expression. I studied the chains binding her wrists. They were made of solidified energy, humming with a frequency that made my teeth tingle. Placing my hands upon the chains, I concentrated, pushing my own will into the labyrinth's living structure. I recalled the door that opened to my touch, and I wondered if the labyrinth might respond to a similar intent now. At first, nothing happened. The chains remained firmly locked, vibrating with each attempt I made to pry them free. Then, a faint luminescence pulsed under my fingers, reacting to my determination, with a groan that resonated through the platform. The chains flickered and dissolved. Ceres gasped, clutching her freed wrists. Thank you, she murmured, tears glistening in her eyes. The shade floated behind her, a mixture of awe and envy in its features. He freed you from the labyrinth's binding. Ceres rose unsteadily, leaning on me for support. I can show you a hidden route, she repeated, a path that leads closer to Lira's sanctum. But be warned, it won't be easy. My lips curved into a grim smile. Easy stopped existing the moment I set foot inside. Though unsure whether I'd just aided a potential ally or unwittingly sprung another trap, I chose to trust the empathy in Ceres's eyes. She seemed genuine, and the shade had recognized her race. If the labyrinth intended to deceive me, it had chosen an elaborate ruse indeed, helping her stand. I let Ceres lean on my shoulder. The three of us left the amphitheater, heading through an archway that led into a winding corridor lined with glowing runes. As we walked, she whispered directions, guiding me around subtle illusions that might have trapped an unwary traveler. Through it all, my mind spun with the implications. The labyrinth was vast beyond measure, its illusions layered like an endless onion. Yet here I was, forging a bond with two beings lost in its depths, a disembodied shade who shared my trials and an alien captive. I'd just freed from luminous chains. We walked deeper into the mists, uncertain of what the labyrinth would throw at us next, but united in our resolve to reach its heart. Lira's final judgment loomed nearer, a silent beacon pulling us forward. And though doubt gnawed at me, I clung to the small victories resisting illusions, freeing Ceres. If the labyrinth tested the worth of my species, perhaps it also tested the power of compassion. No matter the answer, we would discover it soon enough. The living walls watched, their silent hum echoing with each step. I felt as though the labyrinth now moved in tandem with us, pushing us toward some climactic confrontation that would decide not only Earth's fate, but perhaps the fates of all who had ever ventured here in search of hope. Sirius led us through corridors that twisted like serpent coils. We skirted illusions that manifested as shimmering mirages, avoided hidden pits in the floor, and navigated puzzle doors that required precise sequences of glyphs to unlock. At times, the labyrinth seemed to test Sirius's knowledge. Once, a hallway threatened to seal us behind shifting walls, but she called out a phrase in her language that made the stone revert, allowing us passage. Another time, she guided me to place my hand upon a sigil, bypassing a trap that would have engulfed us in scorching flames. All the while, the shade lingered close, watching Sirius's movements with a mixture of wonder and sorrow. I wondered if it was haunted by memories of a physical existence, yearning for a body and freedom. Eventually, we arrived at a towering gate etched with ornate designs. Alien script wreathed its surface, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ceres pressed her palm to the center, and the gate responded with a low rumble, light spreading outward from her touch. "This is as far as I've ever come," she admitted, voice trembling with mingled fear and determination. I sensed Lira's presence beyond this gate, but I never dared enter alone. I placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We face it together now." The shade nodded in silent agreement. With a groan, the gate slid open, revealing a chamber awash in an otherworldly glow. It was vast, so large I couldn't see the far walls. Rivulets of liquid light streamed along the floor, converging at a central dais raised upon a dais of black marble. Atop that platform stood a throne, if it could be called such, fashioned from twisting crystalline columns, and upon it rested a figure, poised with an almost statuesque grace, Lira. Her eyes caught mine immediately. They glowed like twin stars, seeming to pierce every layer of my being. She wore a gown of shimmering silk that coiled about her form, displaying the same hypnotic fluidity I had seen during our first meeting in the city. Sirius exhaled sharply, shrinking back a step, while the shade flickered in agitation. I advanced, my heart pounding a furious rhythm in my chest. "It appears you have brought companions," Lira observed, her voice echoing with a timeless resonance. She rose from her crystalline throne and descended gracefully to the chamber floor. Her gaze flicked over the shade and then fixed upon Sirius, whose trembling was palpable. "A living supplicant and a freed prisoner," Lira mused. "Unexpected. I found Sirius bound in your labyrinth," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "She claimed knowledge of this place and helped guide me here." Lira's expression revealed neither surprise nor anger. Instead, she seemed contemplative. "Many have wandered these halls, succumbing to illusions or vanishing altogether. If she survived, it was by her own cunning and your mercy in freeing her." Turning to Sirius, Lira's voice softened, though it still carried immense weight. "Your plight is known to me, child of the lost. You sought refuge here once, but the labyrinth would not release you without reason." Sirius swallowed, but said nothing. Then Lira's gaze shifted back to me. "And you, Kael of Earth, you have faced my labyrinth's illusions, tested your desires and your guilt, gleaned insight from the silver pool. Now you stand before me, champion of a world on the brink." A hush fell over the chamber. I knew this was the moment my plea for Earth's salvation must be made. Summoning courage, I lifted my chin. "My people beg your mercy," I began, voice echoing in the vaulted space. "We have erred, gravely so, but we yearn for redemption. Grant us the chance to trade knowledge, to heal our planet, to become allies among the stars. Let us learn from Viridian's wisdom. We do not ask for a gift we haven't earned. We merely seek the opportunity to atone." Lira studied me, regal and inscrutable. "I do not lightly offer boons," she said, "nor do I swiftly condemn. The labyrinth was your crucible, a reflection of both your soul and the collective soul of your kind. She stepped closer, her gown trailing over the floor in living folds. Tell me, Kael, what have you learned of yourself and of humanity through these trials? My throat constricted, yet the weight of her question propelled me to speak honestly. I've learned that our flaws are as vast as our potential, I said, my words slow and deliberate. We are capable of destruction, greed, and selfishness, but we are also capable of selflessness, empathy, and boundless courage. The labyrinth forced me to confront my own guilt and to let it go, so I might strive for something better. A ripple of energy seemed to pass through Lira's eyes, as though my words touched her. And what of your companions? She asked, gesturing gently to Ceres and the shade. Why do they stand with you? I glanced at Ceres, who trembled but lifted her chin. Because I helped her when no one else would, I replied. I believed her suffering was real, that it warranted compassion. And the shade has traveled with me since the early halls, guiding me, warning me of illusions, teaching me about the labyrinth. The shade drifted forward, shape flickering. Its voice was low but clear. Kael offered me acceptance when I was but a trapped spirit. I sensed sincerity in him. For the first time in ages, I felt hope. A faint smile curved Lira's lips. Compassion, acceptance. Such virtues are rarely found in those who seek power. Perhaps there is merit in your plea. Hope flared in my chest, but I guarded it, wary of further trials. Lira folded her hands, gazing around the chamber. Yet, one final test remains, she said, her tone somber. For what is mercy without understanding, and what is a bond without sacrifice? She raised her arms, and the living walls shimmered, responding to her will. The rivulets of light streaming across the floor converged around the dais, forming a glowing circle. In order for me to spare your world, you must forge a covenant, Lira declared, a union of hearts that transcends species and illusions. Such a vow cannot be undone lightly. It will require you to open your spirit fully, to become a vessel of cosmic empathy. Through this vow, I will witness the truth of your essence, and through you, the essence of your people. My pulse hammered. The idea of opening myself so fully to an alien goddess both thrilled and terrified me. Yet, I sensed this was the labyrinth's true purpose, to strip away pretense and see if we dared be vulnerable enough to earn forgiveness. What does this vow entail? I managed to ask. Lira's gaze was gentle yet uncompromising. You must endure a communion of minds, she explained. In that union, I will feel your truths and your hidden fears, and in turn, you will glimpse a fraction of my ancient perspective. If our resonance aligns, if you can bear the weight of my presence, then your world shall be spared. But if you falter, the bond will break, and Earth's fate will remain uncertain. A tremor shook me. Images of home flooded my mind, my mother's tired smile, the children playing in the dusty streets, the battered farmland and murky seas. I knew I could not turn back. I accept, I said firmly. Even as my heart threatened to burst from my chest, I will form this vow, whatever it demands. Lira nodded gravely. So be it. She beckoned me forward, into the circle of light. Ceres and the shade hung back, their expressions anxious. I met their gazes, offering a small reassuring nod, then stepped onto the dais. The energy radiated through my boots, humming up my legs and igniting every nerve. Lira extended her hand. Join me, she said. I placed my palm in hers. The moment our skin met, a shock of awareness jolted through me. I gasped as I felt her consciousness brush against mine, vast and deep as a primordial ocean. My own mind reeled, struggling to maintain cohesion in the face of such immensity. Slowly, gently, Lira guided my awareness. Her presence seeped into my thoughts, unveiling memories I'd held hidden, joys and sorrows I'd long forgotten. I shuddered under the weight of it, tears slipping down my cheeks as I relived heartbreaks and triumphs, each moment laid bare. In return, I sensed glimpses of her perspective, eons of ruling Viridian, centuries of forging labyrinthine illusions to test ambassadors from distant stars. I felt her cosmic loneliness, her longing to find kindred spirits among the vastness of space. The bond pulsed, growing stronger. My heart pounded as I clung to the knowledge that I was here for Earth, that no matter how exposed I felt, I had chosen this path. At last, the communion intensified, cresting in a wave of dizzying sensation. I felt my pulse fuse with Lira's, an intimate synergy of spirits. A brilliant flash of light erupted, and for a moment, I thought I might pass out. Then it was over. I collapsed to my knees, trembling, breath ragged. Lira stood above me, face lit with an ethereal glow. Her eyes shone not with judgment, but with a quiet admiration. "You have shown me your truth," she said softly. "You have proven that your compassion is genuine, your remorse sincere, and your resolve unbreakable. In you, I see not only the flaws of humanity, but its promise." She helped me stand, and I wobbled, disoriented. My mind still rang with echoes of her ancient perspective. "With this covenant sealed," Lira declared, "I grant Earth my mercy. You shall have passage to Viridian, the technology to heal your planet, and a place among the stars." My heart soared. Tears sprang to my eyes, and I gave a shaky bow. "Thank you," I whispered, scarcely able to believe the words. Ceres and the shade approached, awe radiating from them. Lira turned her gaze upon them, the gentle glow in her eyes unwavering. "Your stories, too, are bound to this vow," she said, addressing Ceres. "You aided Kael, proving that alliances can transcend fear. If you wish it, you may leave the labyrinth." Ceres's eyes filled with tears. "I do." More than anything, a faint smile touched Lira's lips. "Then go, and live free." Finally, her gaze settled on the shade. "You have lingered here as a spirit for far too long, yet Kael's vow offers you a bridge. Should you wish to reclaim physical form, it will not be easy, and you must share in Kael's vow, bearing the vulnerability of a mortal body once more." The shade trembled, then turned to me. "Would you allow me to accompany you?" it asked, voice trembling with hope. "I have forgotten my own name, my own face. But perhaps in your world, I can rediscover what it means to be alive." Despite my lingering exhaustion, I smiled softly. "Yes," I said, offering my hand. "I would be honored." At that moment, an undercurrent of warmth flowed through the chamber. The labyrinth's walls pulsed once more, as though breathing a final sigh. Lira's voice carried a note of finality. "Then our accord is complete. Go forth, Kael of Earth, with my blessing. May you carry the lessons of this labyrinth into every corner of your life." I felt a gentle tug, as if gravity shifted around me. The dais beneath my feet glowed, and in a surge of light, the chamber dissolved. My vision blurred, and I staggered, feeling the presence of Ceres and the shade clinging to my aura. When the brilliance subsided, we found ourselves standing not in the labyrinth's depths, but on the plateau outside the citadel. The Aurelian dawn loomed in the distance, and Viridian suns, a pair of distant, radiant orbs, shone overhead. A crowd of onlookers gasped, stepping backward in astonishment. Lira was nowhere to be seen, but I felt the echo of her essence in my mind. A wave of relief and exhilaration washed over me. I had survived the labyrinth. We had forged a bond with a goddess. Earth would be spared. Ceres knelt, pressing her hands to the glowing grass, tears of joy staining her cheeks. The shade hovered at my side, no longer flickering, but gradually taking on a more tangible outline, a new form blossoming from the seed of possibility Lira had granted. Amid the cheers and cries of wonder from humans and Viridian natives alike, I looked to the sky. I swore I felt Lyra's distant gaze, a silent benediction upon our newfound alliance. Earth's tomorrow was no longer doomed. The labyrinth had tested me, stripped me bare, and, in return, offered me and my people a chance at redemption. My own fate was forever intertwined with that of an alien goddess, and the vow I had made would shape the path of two worlds. So our story began anew, a champion's return from the labyrinth, bearing mercy and alliance across the stars.